Hello, everyone, and welcome to At Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer, and welcome to our guest, Paul Hudson, CEO of Sanofi. Paul, nice to see you.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So, Sanofi is a big French pharma company, and you make prescription medicines, over-the-counter, and vaccines. What am I missing? How else can you describe the company?
Well, I would say that we reposition ourselves as a scientific leader, perhaps going to become the world's leader in immunology. We're pioneers with AI at scale, and we're launching medicines now continuously. It's a new Sanofi, if you like.
So your biggest products, talk to us about that, and then we'll get to the pipeline and all that. But what are you guys making today that drives the business?
Well, we really bring out some amazing life-changing medicines. Dupixent, which many of your viewers will see and have seen advertised on television, has changed so many lives. Almost 1 million lives have been changed. People with difficult skin conditions like atopic dermatitis, difficult to treat asthma. You know, these are really debilitating conditions, and that's our biggest medicine by far. We're in the flu business, of course, protecting people with flu. We're in rare diseases, protecting people with rare disorders that are really difficult challenges for them as human beings, but we're there to help them hand in hand. And we're really, doubling down on immunology to become the world's leading immunology company.
Also, insulin and yellow fever vaccines, those kinds
We're
of things?
end to end, right? Because the way the company was created, we were all over the entire world, almost in every country, trying to do the right thing. You mentioned yellow fever. We just recently issued some new information around a sleeping sickness, and we're trying to advance the agenda for those that really have no alternative in these difficult diseases in difficult areas. And no, we're just really trying to add value as far and as wide as we can.
So let's talk about the pipeline, because obviously that's a critical issue for your company, for every pharma company. What do you guys have there that is most important for shareholders, Paul?
It's quite a moment for us. Last December, we shared an update on our pipeline. We've slowly but surely, meticulously put together what we believe is the world's leading immunology pipeline. We've been very disciplined about taking multiple shots in difficult to treat diseases to give patients the best benefit. Could be Crohn's disease, could be ulcerative colitis, could be multiple sclerosis, it could be E. coli. The full breadth of immunology, we've said, no, we're doubling down because so many patients are yet to be treated and patients are so different and unique. We need to bring things forward. So as recently as a few days ago, we announced that we have groundbreaking data with amlitelimab and OX40 ligand to raise the game again in treating atopic dermatitis. We're really breaking new ground right across the continuum. Multiple drug mechanisms to really treat difficult diseases and the individuality of patients. We're going to be the world's leader.
Another topical piece of news that came out, I think, about your company just recently was the RSV therapy. Can you talk about what that is and what that means?
Well, many people are familiar with RSV, or they've had a moment in their own family where a newborn has contracted a respiratory virus and perhaps even has ended up in a pediatric ICU. Very distressing, can create permanent damage in the lung for a newborn, go on to develop different respiratory illnesses. It's the number one reason why babies go to hospital in the RSV season, more than 50% of admissions. It's very scary for new parents. And we launched Beyfortus last fall. We protected nearly 2 million babies in a matter of weeks. It's staggering what we've done. And the data that's been shown since then says we have managed to achieve a 90% reduction in admission to hospital for these babies. So pioneering, first in class, best in class, really where this company needs to be. Very proud, by the way, of the work we've done. Very proud of the approach we took, which is we're going to try and protect all infants. All infants, that's important to us.
I have to ask you about AI. I think you guys are involved in that. I'm smiling a little bit because it seems like everyone has an AI strategy, but tell us about yours.
Well, I think everybody talks about having an AI strategy, and I think on their best day, they do some interesting work in silos. I think we've taken a slightly different approach. First of all, we think there's sort of 3 main buckets of AI. There's expert AI, in detail, highly bespoke, small numbers of people, massive computing power to design molecules that could be perhaps even safer or more efficacious, and to really improve our probability of success of bringing a medicine forward. This is highly customized, state-of-the-art work. Then we have what we call snackable AI. You may use Waze or Kayak or different tools to help you on your day. We've got the same for our own people. We have nearly 14,000 people every day getting nudged with, have you thought about this, using AI across the company. And what's interesting about that is we're the first company, perhaps one of the few, we'll remain to be one of the few, in fact, to do AI at scale. Everybody's building AI in silos. We're building it transversely, connecting all of the data to make sure that we are absolutely at the cutting edge of how we deploy resource, how we enable people, how we discover new medicines, how we're more efficient and effective.
Yeah, so it's really going to help you discover new medicines and develop new medicines, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because, some of the breakthroughs in science now, you can follow a sort of what we call a nodal pathway and explore different diseases that may have a mechanism based on the drug you have, but you're not sure, and use AI to try and identify those diseases and to try and make sure that you've got something unique and different and improve your probability of success. People forget that a phase 1 medicine, you've already spent hundreds of millions getting to this point, has a 90% chance of failure. Even a phase 3 medicine, you could be $2 or $3 billion invested, has a 35% chance of failure. And that's not good for patients, it's not good for caregivers, it's not good for companies or investors. And so we want to improve our probability of success by making sure that we've got the drug right first time. We don't have to iterate, we can move, and we can do something incredible for everybody.
Paul, I have to ask you, last October, your stock dropped 15% in one day. Stock is still below that level. What happened, and what are you doing to mitigate that?
Well, I know it may sound a little counterintuitive, but it was a very important moment for the company. I joined at the end of 2019. We've been assembling this incredible pipeline, and 2023 was the most prolific scientific news a year in the entire history of this great company. We were at a fork in the road. Should we double down on our science, take it all the way, do great things for patients, and create perhaps an even more valuable company than it is today? Or should we hesitate, blink, step back from the science, and maybe not bring some of these medicines through? So we made a statement to the market. We believed in what we have. We think we're in a great place. We're going to invest more in research and development, in particular development. And we're going to show you that this company, and this is a really important point, can be a scientific leader again. And that moment, whilst difficult for people to understand, you've seen we've started to make the ground back. We're proud of that. We held an incredible R&D day in December in New York City. People really started to get it. And if you look at us now and the level of understanding and what people think the company could be worth in the future, based on those choices, we're in a very different position. And I worked 4.5 years to get to that point. I'm very proud of the choice we made.
I think you've said you're sort of in a show me phase right now. Yeah. When can investors expect to be shown, do you think?
It started, there's a couple of things I think investors really want to see. Can you discover and develop medicines, and can you launch them successfully? In the last year or so, we've launched a hemophilia A drug, which is doing incredibly well and go on to be a blockbuster and beyond, even further than that. We launched Beyfortus, you mentioned earlier, never been done before, first in class. And we launched for type 1 diabetes a novel approach to try and slow down the development of the disease and perhaps to avoid insulin dependency. We've launched them really well. So then the question is, if you've got a great launch engine, what assets can you put in there? And that's what we've been focused on. As recently as a few days ago, I mentioned our OX40 ligand. We shared data on that, amlitelimab. It's game changing. And now the news builds. We'll get news on multiple sclerosis this summer. We'll get news on asthma with rilzabutinib at high dose. Could it be game changing? A tablet, imagine, advanced therapy for asthma. No, we're underway now. The market expects us to deliver. It expects us to show we can do research and development. And I'm very proud. I think we're top notch at development, frankly. We stand up against anybody. Research we could have done better over the years, but it is what it is. Now we're in a good spot.
You've also talked about spinning off or doing some sort of transaction with the consumer business, which has Allegra, Asparcream, Icy Hot. I'm hearing there's private equity circling or interested. Can you give us an update on that?
Well, in 19, when I took over the role, the consumer business was not as fashionable as perhaps it is now. And the level of interest was, we were trying to get our house in order. We were trying to prioritize, and we'd sort of suffocated that business a little bit in the big pharma construct. So we carved it in, got new leadership, focused it, skinnied down its portfolio, really doubled down the investments on the real opportunities. And then we started to build something very special. And the reason that it gets talked about, PE, et cetera, is because they're seeing the value. In the end, our consumer team will tell you they want to be independent, to allocate capital themselves. They see great opportunities, and they're basically standing up independently inside the company. I need to spend more money in immunology. We're going to be the world's leader. They would like to spend more money in consumer investments. So we declared that from as early as Q4 24 that we hope to achieve independence for them and list them in Paris. And I think it'd be a proud day for them and for us.
Sounds like a new country, declaring independence and all that. But don't you lose the stable cash flow? I mean, because you've seen, there's questions on Wall Street about that. There's sort of the upside is you're, freeing, unlocking the value. The bad news is perhaps you lose the stable cash flow.
You have to ask yourself, what is the best way to create shareholder return for both, right? And we could create something special for them. What does it mean for us? There will, of course, be proceeds at some point, depending on how we list and what that looks like. And how do we redeploy that? And how do we create even more value than we have today? Also, the pharma business, the way we're anticipating, will grow faster than our consumer business. And that's quite an important thing because growth is really the key driver ultimately for what we do in pharma. Innovation leads to growth, leads to increased valuation, and that's the journey that we're on.
Paul, I was looking at your competitive set. You've got, Novartis, AstraZeneca, Roche in Europe, Merck, AbbVie, Pfizer in the United States. And you play in that competitive set. You guys are different, they're different. But then you've got these two giant companies over here, Lilly and Novo Nordisk, and they're in the weight loss business. What do you make of the market capitalizations of those two companies?
It's captured a moment, right? First of all, let's say that those medicines that they've brought forward are going to be very important for society and for population health management. So I think we all get it. They took the risks a bunch of years ago to do the studies, and they are rewarded for that, as they should be. I would put us, frankly, right behind those two great companies in terms of the value we're going to create, how we look. I believe that we are the next story, perhaps not in obesity, but here's the thing. Immunology is our obesity. What we're doing in immunology is so unique and different. And even with Dupixent, that'll achieve 13 billion euros in sales this year, 89% of patients that should get it don't get it. Right? It's not available for them, or they don't step forward to their physician, or the physician doesn't offer it. 89% when you have a 13 billion revenue. Think about that. So we believe immunology is our obesity. We believe we're well placed to capitalize on that. And I have to be considered about capital allocation, and I'm excited about how we're deploying. I'm very pleased with the way we're doing it.
Your company, like so many big pharma companies, is the product of so many mergers. I'm just looking at the names here. Sterling, Genzyme, Rhone-Poulenc, Celanese, Protein Science, Aventis. How do you knit and keep all these different companies together? Now, I know some of those go back decades, but some of them are more recent, these mergers. And how do you have one culture at a company?
It's a great question. The company's only been around 50 years. It's one of the youngest big cap pharma companies. It's more than 300 acquisitions, some of them of large size, and they were never fully integrated. I think that's been one of the opportunities and heavy lifts for me, is trying to make sure that we can fully integrate and we can achieve efficiency. I think we're proud of all the threads of the tree that grew the company. But the reality, again, remains AI for me was the moment to unify data, to do something never been done before. Our data sets now are fully connected right across the business, number one. Number two, you ask about culture. There's one thing for certain, because of the way this company was born, we're entrepreneurs. The company was grown as entrepreneurs, and people know how to make a return. They know how to run businesses. They know how to run sites and countries. My job has been to try and say to everybody, let's learn a bit more about how to be global when we need to be, do things together, like in a military fashion with discipline, but keep that entrepreneur spirit so that we can do things at speed and create a return that other companies just simply can't do. I've worked in great companies that have been brilliant globally or terrible globally. Sanofi is the first entrepreneurial culture I've ever worked in. I'm proud of what we have. My job is not to lose that as the culture evolves. AI is providing an opportunity for that. And at the same time, be disciplined when we need to be.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you about some of your experiences. I mean, you worked a lot of these companies, as you said, GlaxoSmithKline, AstraZeneca, and then you were the CEO of Novartis. I'm not going to ask you which ones were terrible. You just sort of indicated maybe some of them weren't so good. Although, if you'd like to share that with us.
My arrival in Sanofi is a sort of accumulation of experiences, and they've been incredible on many occasions. They've been challenging on many occasions, and different companies in different situations at different times. I think I'm a more effective CEO for the journey that I've been on, and I've learned a ton from all of those companies. Remember, I've been around 34 years in this industry. It's not a short period of time, and I've tried to always learn. I've tried to worry less about job titles and spend more time thinking about the experiences I need to learn to be more effective. And I'm thankful for the organizations you mentioned for giving me that opportunity. I'm deploying it all now. And I'm bringing everything I've learned to this great company. And I really feel like the company is beginning to respond, and we put ourselves in a unique situation.
Sort of a big picture question, Paul, about regulatory environments and trying to navigate that across all different borders that you guys operate in. Is that becoming more difficult these days or less difficult?
Well, I think the
regulations in different countries.
Yeah, look, the US market is an incredibly important market for many reasons. In principle, because of the access to innovation. Great medicines that are first in class, best in class, which is about 90% of our pipeline, by the way, are rewarded in the United States. In Europe and other markets, only 50% of medicines that are approved are available for patients. I know people talk a lot about how attractive pricing is in other countries. The access to innovation just simply isn't there. That's one thing. The second thing is, of course, the FTC and other bodies have different levels of sensitivity depending on administrations. Whilst we understand the need to make sure there's competition and that nobody achieves a position of dominance, we get that. But sometimes some sensitivity is needed. We tried to license a rare disease medicine from a small company. They wanted us to. They had built this beautiful little company. They couldn't take the drug to the next level. They couldn't bring it forward to patients. And because we're already in that therapeutic area, we were deprived of the opportunity by the FTC. Now, I understand, by the way, the lens the FTC looks through. I just hope that company goes on to bring that medicine forward. It may not. And then you say to yourself, are we depriving patients of innovation? I understand it's hard to write a policy that governs every opportunity by a regulator, but frankly, I think in our industry, what's best for patients is the best navigator.
And final question, Paul. You were raised in Britain. You've lived in America for many years, and you're now running a company based in Paris.
Yeah.
How difficult is that? What are the problems, but what are the opportunities from sort of triangulating across all those different countries and cultures?
I led businesses in Japan, in Asia, the US several times, so I feel equipped. I talked about gathering experiences. I'm a sort of global nomad, if you like. I like to believe I'm culturally sensitive and understand what's special about every country. I lived in Spain, Japan, the US, Switzerland, the UK, and there's always something to celebrate. There's always some magic in the countries that you're humble enough to be able to call home for a period of time. I think it's a privilege to lead this great French company. There are some unique things, not least the food and the lifestyle in Paris, but France is famous for engineering, it's famous for mathematics, it's famous for data science, it's famous for chemistry and biology, and in my business, that's the intersection of what's special. That's where miracles can be born. I'm, very happy to be leading a French company. I'm aware, as always, as an outsider, that my job is to, and I say this a lot, but it's true, to match the stride of our people in our home market, and then to lengthen our stride a little bit based on the experiences that I've garnered over the years in different places. Every country is unique. Every country has something special. It also has its challenges or opportunities to do better. And I feel well placed, and Sanofi is extraordinarily well placed to do that in France.
Paul Hudson, CEO of Sanofi, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
This is at Barrons. I'm Andy Serwer. We'll catch you next time.